Hi, I'm going to talk about a student engagement technique called the Formative Quiz. Now, in the book Student Engagement Techniques by Barkley and Major, they have 50 different techniques that are available, and it's sectioned off into different categories. And this particular quiz is under the area of learning and study skills. Now, with the Formative Quiz, the student will complete a quiz independently. Now, once they have completed that quiz, they'll get together either in pairs or a small group or as a class, and they will compare their answers. And then once they do that, the instructor will then review the answers with the class. Now, if the class is an online class, there's other ways that this can be presented. For example, the Science Direct has a great article that talks about gamification. That's by Zane Newton, and it's referenced at the end of this PowerPoint. And this can be in the form of an e-quiz with gamification, and they mention that there's Kahoots and quizzes that can be used to create these gamified quizzes, which can be actually more engaging for the student as well, especially if they add a little bit of competition to it with the form of badges and certificates that can be given. And that's a good article on that. So why did I choose a formative quiz? Well, I like the idea that the key concepts and key terms can be reviewed. So it gives a chance to go back to what was learned earlier, and it allows for the opportunity of the interleaving effect. Now, Stephen Pan wrote an article on the interleaving effect, and he talks about how how students learn, instead of learning topic A, then topic B, then topic C, they learn a little bit of A, B, and C, then they go back and they learn a little bit deeper A, B, and C, and then they dive in a little bit more with A, B, and C. So they're constantly going back to A. They're not just learning all of A and then dropping it. They're actually going back to it. And the article referenced at the end of this PowerPoint it talks about how this really helps with the retention of the information that's being taught to the student. Now, the formative quiz also works as a formative assessment to help the students self-assess. And it works well for material where it's application based and where it's less theoretical. And for myself, I teach accounting, tax, business math, and it's all application based. So this actually works very well for the types of subjects that I teach. Now, there's some advantages and disadvantages of using the formative quiz. The advantages includes reducing test anxiety. Now, the idea is that the questions that you ask on the formative quiz will be very similar to what they're going to be tested on or have the same topic. So it can help reduce the test anxiety because students can feel more comfortable with being asked questions in those areas. And also misunderstandings can be quickly corrected, as well as common errors being discussed. So this gives a chance for all those common errors and misunderstandings to be brought out. And it can also be used in classes that are less theoretical. So as mentioned, this does work best for practical-based courses. And it promotes the student autonomy. So formative quizzes, this is not for grades. This is something that the students can do on their own. It's non-threatening. They have the opportunity to go in and do the quiz on their own time if it's an e-quiz, depending on how the instructor sets it up. But I like the idea of having it so that there is more student autonomy. They can complete the quiz if they want to, add a little bit of fun to it, have a little bit of variety with the quizzes, but again, it's very non-threatening to the student. Some of the disadvantages is that it does need modification for the online environment. The opportunity to discuss with the class as a whole is not there if you are asynchronous online. However, the gamification piece can really be worked when it's an online course. And then it's not as effective for the subjective type questions. Now for the role of the student needs to come to class prepared and they need to interact and be inquisitive. And there's an article referenced at the end of this PowerPoint, the roles and responsibilities of students in the classroom management. And it talks in detail on the interaction and how the role of the student is to be inquisitive. And of course, we want students to have fun as well. Now, the role of the instructor needs to choose questions that prepares the students for the exam. So you want them to not have any surprises when it comes to the formal assessment. And you also need to know your students. Now, this was not anything that I had come across in my readings, but from my own experience, I feel it's really important to know the students. If you're teaching a topic during midterm week, the students are not going to be, typically not be as engaged, and they're not going to retain as much of the information because often their minds are elsewhere. So keep that in mind. If you have students that have, if you have a high ESL, portion of students in your class, make sure that you word your questions carefully as to not to confuse those that are still learning English as a second language. And so really know your students, have some ideas to what their week is like, and also make it fun. You definitely want to make it fun for the students. And that is it. Here are my references, and thank you for watching.